The SOS was already dying when it reached human space, not fading, rotting. Fragments of sound repeated endlessly, warped by distance and damage. Static screamed between syllables. A voice, thin, exhausted, terrified, kept looping the same broken sentence. They are not negotiators. They are not negotiators. No coordinates, no species ID, no explanation. Just a drifting alien relay station, spinning slowly through the dark like a corpse that hadn't realized it was dead yet. On the bridge of the Un's Harbinger, Admiral Elias Rowan stood motionless, hands clasped behind his back. The hologram of the relay rotated in front of him, burnt hole, punctured antennae, interior compartments fused into slag. Whoever had sent that message had known. They wouldn't live long enough to say more. Rowan felt a familiar weight settle in his chest. Too late. His mind whispered. Again. Humanity had entered the galactic stage only 30 years ago. 30 years. Already they were whispered about in council halls with unease. Deathworlders. A species born on a planet that tried to kill them every day. Unstable climate, crushing gravity, predators with claws, poison, and teeth designed for endurance hunting. And worst of all, each other. Human ships reflected that origin. They were not elegant like the crystalline fleets of the Elia. They did not shimmer with bioorganic curves like the Valathi. Human warships were thick, scarred, layered with redundant armor and oversized weapons. Built to survive hell. Built by a species that had learned mercy could be fatal. Dr. Lyra Voss stood a few steps behind Rowan, clutching her datapad tighter than she realized. Civilian, xenologist, idealist, she had spent her life studying alien cultures, patterns of diplomacy, the psychology of first contact. She truly believed that understanding could prevent extinction. Signal analysis confirms planetary-scale bombardment, an officer reported. Civilian infrastructure targeted first. Lyra swallowed. That's genocide. Rowan didn't respond. She stepped closer. Admiral, if we intervene without council authorization, the council already voted. Rowan said quietly. Observation only, Lyra finished, bitterness leaking into her voice. They always do. Rowan finally turned to face her. His eyes weren't cold. They were tired, old in a way that had nothing to do with age. Tell me, Doctor, he asked, how many observation reports does it take to fill a mass grave? Lyra had no answer. That the attackers were identified within minutes. The Viral Dominion, diplomats, strategists, masters of soft words, and sharp knives. They were infamous for their pattern. Initiate peaceful talks with weaker species. Propose protection agreements. Then accuse their targets of treaty violations. What followed was always the same. Orbital fire, population reduction, total assimilation or extinction. They don't negotiate. Lyra whispered, remembering the message. Rohan nodded once. No, they don't. He remembered another world, another delayed decision, another council vote that came too late. He remembered the screams. Admiral, the tactical officer said carefully. Standing orders require council authorization for direct military confirmed genocide markers. Rowan interrupted. A pause. Sensors recalibrated. AI cross-referenced historical patterns. Then, confirmed, sir. The bridge fell silent. Rowan exhaled slowly. No mercy protocol, he said. Several officers stiffened. Lyra's breath caught. That doctrine isn't written, Rowan finished. I know. No mercy protocol existed only as a shared understanding among human high command. It was never codified, never discussed publicly. If genocide was verified beyond doubt, humanity did not negotiate, did not threaten, did not withdraw. They erased the threat completely. As the fleet powered up, Lyra worked furiously through council data logs. Something felt wrong. Too quiet. Too clean. Then she found it. Her blood went cold. The SOS was detected weeks ago, she said softly. It was delayed. Rowan turned slowly. The council intercepted it first, she continued. They suppressed it. They wanted to see what you'd do. A test. Proof. Double quotes. They want us to be the monster, Lyra whispered. Rowan stared at the stars beyond the viewport. Good, he said at last. Then they'll learn what monsters do. The human fleet moved without ceremony. No broadcast warnings, no demands, no heroic speeches, just silent acceleration. Lyra watched the tactical displays, dread coiling in her stomach. If we go through with this, there's no walking it back. Rowan's reflection stared back at her in the glass. There never was, he said. The Viral home fleet never detected the human ships until it was too late. fired first and slugs accelerated to relativistic speeds. Shields meant for energy dispersal failed instantly. Hulls ruptured. Atmospheres vented into space. No explosions. No sound. Just sudden death. The first virile transmission arrived moments later. This is a sovereign system. Cease fire immediately. Rowan cut the channel. They don't negotiate. He reminded the bridge. Human ships advanced methodically, targeting command vessels, logistics hubs, evacuation corridors. Efficient, unforgiving. Lyra felt sick. She understood the logic. She understood the necessity. But logic didn't silence the screaming in her mind. They're evacuating civilians, she said. Children. Rohan didn't look away from the display. They always do. After a virile cruiser attempted to flee, a human destroyer adjusted trajectory and fired. The cruiser disappeared in a bloom of shattered metal. Lyra turned away. The final transmission came from a virile flagship, its hull burning, power failing. We surrender, the virile commander pleaded. We will negotiate terms. Please. Rowan closed his eyes for a brief moment. He remembered another surrender, another promise. Another betrayal. Execute final phase. He said. The flagship broke apart under concentrated fire. Silence returned to the battlefield. The operation lasted less than an hour. The virile home fleet ceased to exist. Orbital bombardment systems were neutralized. Command infrastructure erased. Military capacity reduced to zero. Human ships withdrew with the same quiet efficiency they had arrived. Behind them drifted wreckage, and the undeniable message, do not do this again. Human Marines landed on the refugee planet hours later. What they found nearly broke them. Cities reduced to ash. Shelters collapsed. Survivors clinging to life in underground warrens. When the refugees saw the human insignia, they didn't cheer, they wept. Lyra knelt beside a trembling alien child, its eyes too large, too old. You're safe now, she whispered, though she wasn't sure what safe meant anymore. Galactic Council reacted within days. Emergency, session condemnations, sanctions. Humanity was officially labeled a strategic lethal threat. Lyra stood beside Rowan as the declaration streamed across the bridge. We saved them, she said quietly. Why does it feel like we lost something? Rowan watched the refugee transports depart. Because we did. As the fleet prepared to jump, Lyra asked the question that had been burning inside her. If they hadn't delayed the signal, if the council had acted sooner, would this have ended differently? Rowan didn't answer right away. Then he said, maybe. He turned toward the stars, voice barely above a whisper. But maybe doesn't stop genocide. The Harbinger jumped to hyperspace. Behind it, the galaxy adjusted its understanding of humanity. Not as heroes, not as villains, but as something far more dangerous. A species that answered SOS calls, even when the universe hoped they wouldn't. The SOS did not ask for help. It begged. Static choked. Audio flooded human monitoring stations. Screams layered over screams. Buildings collapsing. Translators struggling to keep up. They're killing us, please children, no evacuation. The signal cut, then restarted. Again and again. On the bridge of the Unresolute, Commander Nyla Chen stood perfectly still, eyes locked on the holographic display. The audio played on loop, each repetition digging deeper under her skin. She had heard thousands of distress calls in her career. This one was designed to hurt. Confirmed source, she said. Voice calm, controlled Kestrel. Home system, an officer replied. Civilian population centers under attack. Aggressor identified as the ARC's coalition. Nyla closed her eyes for half a second, then opened them. Jump the fleet, she said. Maximum burn. Humanity did not debate so cold. That was what made them different. The Galactic Council discussed, voted, delayed, measured political consequences while planets burned. Humans answered. It was why weaker species whispered, their name like a stronger ones like a cursed death. If you screamed loudly enough, they would come, and someone would pay. Nyla Chen was young for her rank. Too young, some said. A tactical prodigy, raised on simulations and battle doctrine, with a mind that processed combat like mathematics. Efficient, precise, emotionally sealed. She did not rage. She did not panic. She did not hesitate. Her crew trusted her because she never froze when others did. What they didn't know was that Nyla locked her emotions away not because she lacked them, but because she felt them too strongly. The Kashtal system lay in a fractured region of space, where borders shifted with whoever survived the last conflict. No neutral observers, no reliable media, no truth-only aftermath. By the time the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace, the system was already burning. Orbital platforms shattered, atmospheric fires visible from space, Keshtel cities collapsing under sustained bombardment. The SOS resumed automatically. Please anyone, Nyla's jaw tightened. Engage ARC's forces, she ordered. Priority, immediate threat elimination. The battle was one-sided. Human ships moved with terrifying precision, carving through ARC's war vessels like surgeons. No wasted shots. No unnecessary destruction. ARC's shields failed. Command ships vanished in railgun fire. Fighters disintegrated before they could regroup. To Nyla, it felt too easy. She frowned at the tactical feed. ARC's resistance patterns don't match known doctrine, she muttered. They're disorganized. Maybe they didn't expect us, her XO offered. Or maybe, Nyla said slowly, they're not who we think they are. Mid-battle, a notification flickered on Nyla's console. Intelligence priority, Elatashi frowned. Route that to me only. Encrypted files unfolded across her display. Casualty reports. Intercepted communications. Classified council data that should not have been accessible. Her pulse quickened. This wasn't standard procedure. Something was wrong. As human ships annihilated the last ARC's carriers, Nyla scanned the intelligence feed. Her breath caught. The data showed pre-war ARC's transmissions, peace offers, warnings, evacuation advisories. Then Keshtal border raids documented, timestamped, undeniable. False flag attacks, manufactured casualties. The Keshtal had provoked the war, and when retaliation came, they had staged the perfect SOS. Children's screams spliced into the broadcast. Civilian footage recycled from older disasters. The horror was real but not current. The call had been engineered to trigger humanity. Felt cold spread through her chest. No, she whispered, before she could act. A damaged ARC's frigate broke through the battle haze, broadcasting on all channels. This is ARC's vessel Calthary, a distorted voice crackled. We are not we warned them. We tried to withdraw. They wanted you to come. The frigate transmitted everything. Raw footage, unedited logs, proof.ny stared as the truth filled her screen. Then the frigate exploded. A human standing orders had fired. The transmission cut. Silence replaced the screams. The battle ended moments later. ARC's fleet neutralized. Keshtal space secured. Cheers erupted on parts of the bridge. Nyla said nothing. Her hands hovered over the console, trembling just slightly. Commander, her XO said cautiously. High Command requests status confirmation. Nyla swallowed. ARC's forces eliminated, she said evenly. Civilian threat neutralized. She stared at the suppressed transmission icon blinking on her screen. Order. Commander, the XO pressed. Nyla. Close the file. Suppress all unauthorized broadcasts, she said. Her voice did not waver. Human relief teams landed on Keshtal worlds. They found destruction, yes, but not genocide. Evacuation shelters were intact. Casualties far lower than reported. Leadership bunkers fully operational. The Survivor Council greeted humanity with tears and gratitude. You saved us, one elder said. Hands trembling, Nyla watched from orbit. Hollow. You used us, she thought. A secure channel opened. High Command. We've reviewed the intelligence, the voice said. The Council prefers stability. The ARCs are already vilified. This truth changes nothing. Nyla felt her jaw tighten. You want it buried? Yes. A pause. You did your duty, Commander. The channel closed. Weeks later, Nyla stood in a ceremonial hall, light glinting off polished metal and medals. For decisive action under pressure, the announcer declared, we recognize Commander Nyla Chen. Applause thundered. She accepted the medal with steady hands. Cameras flashed. She smiled on cue. That night, alone in her quarters, Nyla sat in the dark. She replayed the ARC's transmission. This time, she left the sound on. The voice was calm, exhausted, honest. We tried to stop it. She shut it off. Nyla pressed her palms to her eyes, breathing slowly. Humanity needed monsters. The galaxy needed a simple story, and she had helped write it. Days later, Nyla stood at the observation window, watching stars stretch into hyperspace. Her reflection stared back at her, decorated, celebrated. A hero. She wondered how many other SOS calls were lies. And how many truths had died screaming into the dark. The galaxy would sleep easier tonight, because humanity had answered, because someone else had paid, and because the truth had arrived just a few seconds too late. Some SOS calls scream. Others never make it out alive. Captain Rafe Calder stood alone on the observation deck of the UN's Revenant, staring into the quiet stretch of stars ahead. The hyperspace hum vibrated through the deck plates. Steady and familiar. Too familiar. He had learned long ago that silence in space was never empty. It was full of things that never arrived in time. The console beside him chimed. Calder frowned. Put it through. The screen flickered. What appeared was not a fleet, but a convoy. Broken ships, scorched hulls, engines barely holding together with patchwork repairs and desperation. The symbol painted across their lead vessel made Calder's chest tighten. The Ilari. Nomads. Alive. Shouldn't have been possible. Years ago, Rafe Calder had been a rescue officer stationed near the Ilari system. When the SOS came, it had been clear, clean, undeniable. Orbital bombardment, civilian targets, genocide markers across every scan. Calder had pushed for immediate intervention. The Council had delayed. Verification needed. Political ramifications. Wait for authorization. By the time permission came through, the Ilari homeworld was already ash. Calder had watched the after-action footage alone. He had never watched it again. The Ilari convoy docked under heavy escort. Calder walked into the hangar as the airlock hissed open. What stepped out did not look like refugees. They were scarred, lean, hardened, not broken. Their leader, a tall Ilari with one eye, replaced by a dull mechanical lens. His movements were controlled, deliberate. Captain Calder, the Ilari said, voice rough but steady. You look older. Calder swallowed. You're alive. Yes, the Ilari replied, because we stopped waiting. The galaxy Calder served now was different from the one he had failed years ago. Wars had reshaped borders. Alliances were transactional. Mercy was currency. Species survived by leverage, not law. The Ilari had learned that lesson the hard way. They had become nomads not by choice, but because there was no home left to return to. The meeting room was silent. No pleading, no anger, just facts. The species that destroyed us is rebuilding. The Ilari leader said, projecting star maps into the air. New shipyards, new population centers. Calder studied the data. They're attending a peace summit. The Ilari continued, protected by treaties, by council law. Calder felt his jaw tighten. You want us to break that? We want you, the Ilari said calmly, to finish what they started. Calder leaned back, exhaling slowly. You're asking us to commit an execution, he said. The Ilari's mechanical eye whirred softly. No, he replied. We are asking you to pay a debt. Calder stiffened. We didn't destroy your world. No, the Ilari agreed, but you did nothing to stop it. The words landed like a physical blow. Calder said nothing, because there was no defense. That night, Calder walked the corridors of the Revenant, memories clawing at him. If we had gone sooner, if I had disobeyed orders, if someone had acted, the Ilari hadn't begged. They hadn't accused. They had simply waited, and now they had come to collect. High command was divided. The target species is currently compliant, one admiral argued. Attacking them undermines council authority. Calder listened in silence. They were compliant then too, he said finally, until they weren't. The room fell quiet. Authorized limited strike. Calder continued. No civilian casualties. Command and military infrastructure only. A lie. Everyone knew it, but no one said it aloud. Authorization was granted. The fleet traveled toward the summit system under diplomatic transponder codes. Calder stood on the bridge, watching the stars stretch and fold. The Ilari convoy followed behind them. Silent, patient. They had waited years. What was a few more days? The summit station gleamed in orbits, neutral, guarded by treaty-bound defense. Platforms. Representatives from dozens of species were present. Talking. Shaking hands. Celebrating peace. Calder watched the feed with hollow eyes. Drop the mask, he said. Human ships decloaked. Treaty alarms blared. Confusion erupted. Human railguns fired. Defense platforms vanished in synchronized strikes. The summit station attempted to broadcast emergency ceasefire codes. Calder terminated the channel. This is a sanctioned operation, he said evenly. Stand down. They didn't get the chance. The station broke apart under focused fire. Shuttles tried to flee. Human interceptors cut them down. Not because they were a threat, but because survivors told stories. The species that had destroyed the Ilari never finished rebuilding. Never would. After the operation, Calder met the Ilari leader again. You have our thanks, the Ilari said. Calder nodded stiffly. You're safe now. The Ilari tilted his head slightly. We were never trying to be safe. Calder frowned. What do you mean? Our species was finished the day our world burned, the Ilari said calmly. Survival was never the goal. The words sank slowly. You wanted revenge, Calder said. No, the Ilari corrected. We wanted closure. Calder felt something inside him crack. He had told himself this was justice.balance.a. necessary evil. But looking into the Illyrius eye, he realized the truth. He hadn't saved them. He had become their weapon. The galaxy reacted with outrage. Council condemnations followed. Sanctions threatened. Humanity responded with silence. The Ilari convoy departed without ceremony. No celebrations, no future plans. They simply disappeared into deep space. Their debt paid. Calder was offered medals. Interviews. Commendations. For decisive leadership. He refused all of them. Didn't save anyone. He told High Command. I just made sure no one could ask again. Weeks later, Calder stood once more at the observation window. Stars drifted past. Uncaring. Humanity would be feared for this. Respected. Hated. But somewhere in the dark, a species without a home could finally stop running. Calder rested his hand against the glass. Mercy, he realized, was never free. It was a debt. And humanity was always willing to collect. Most distress calls are loud. This one was quiet. No explosions in the background. No overlapping screams. No chaos begging for attention. Just a single, trembling voice. Is anyone there? The transmission crackled, weak and unstable, as if even the universe itself was unsure it wanted the message delivered. We're still alive. On the bridge of the Unzegus, Lieutenant Mara Ionescu felt her breath catch. The audio continued. They killed everyone else. Silence followed. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that came after something had already died. The planet had no official name anymore. Its star was dying red, swollen, unstable. Long-range scans showed a world that had been glassed from orbit. Oceans boiled away. Cities melted into featureless plains of black crystal. A sterilized world. A world no one was supposed to survive. That can't be right. One of the Marines muttered as the visuals sharpened. Mara stared at the display, jaw clenched. She had seen worlds like this before. She had grown up on one. Earth sectors flattened during the resource wars. Underground shelters. Long nights listening to bombs fall, wondering if the ceiling would still be there in the morning. Her hands tightened into fists. Children survived because children always hid better. Mara was not the loud kind of officer. She didn't shout orders or posture for authority. Her voice stayed calm, even when everything else fell apart. That calm had been forged in fear. As a child, she had learned to stay quiet when soldiers passed overhead. Learned to read danger in vibrations through the floor. Learned that crying could get people killed. That memory never left her. It lived in her bones. Prepared ground teams, she said. We're going in. Dropships cut through the planet's thin atmosphere, holes glowing under friction. Below them stretched the remains of civilization-collapsed megastructures. Skeletal towers half melted into the ground. Streets frozen in glass. No movement, no power. Signatures. Except one, a cluster of faint life signs buried beneath the ruins of what had once been a learning complex. A school. Mara closed her eyes for a heartbeat. Of course, it's a school. The Marines cut through rubble and reinforced stone. When the final barrier gave way, light flooded the underground chamber. Dozens of small figures recoiled instinctively. Alien children. Thin, scarred, too quiet. They didn't cry. They didn't scream. They just stared with wide, unblinking eyes that had already seen too much. Mara slowly removed her helmet. It's okay, she said gently. We're here. One child stepped forward hesitantly. Are you real? That question hurt more than any battlefield wound ever had. Alarms blared. Multiple hostile contacts entering the system, the Aegis reported. Unknown aggressor, fleet matching signatures of prior bombardment. They had come back to finish the job. Mara's heart slammed against her ribs. How long until they're in firing range? She demanded. Minutes, came the reply. We won't have time for a full evacuation. Mara looked at the children, some clutching each other, others staring numbly at the Marines. She thought of herself at their age. Hiding, waiting, hoping someone would come. Command, Mara said into her. Come. We can't extract everyone in time. Silence followed. Then a calm voice. Understood, Lieutenant. You are authorized to withdraw. Withdraw. Leave them. Mara closed her eyes. No, she said quietly. What was that, Lieutenant? Command asked. Mara straightened. I'm not leaving them. The Marines formed a defensive perimeter around the shelter entrance. Weapons charged, shields raised. Dropships began loading children as fast as possible. But there were too many. The enemy fleet entered orbit. Orbital cannons powered up. The planet's crust trembled. Mara knelt in front of a small child who was shaking. Silently, she handed over her own unit Pacha. Simple human symbol. Hold this, she said. It means you're not alone. The child clutched it like a lifeline. Above the planet, the human fleet faced an impossible reality. Standard procedure was clear. Jump out. Preserve assets. Minimize losses. But the sensors showed the truth. If they left, the children would die. The enemy fleet commander transmitted a single message. Withdraw. This world is cleansed. Human ships did not respond. Instead, they did something no doctrine allowed. They jumped deeper. Human ships executed a hyperspace jump inside the planet's gravity well, an act considered suicidal. Navigation systems screamed. Hulls warped. Reactors overloaded. Ships tore themselves apart under forces no vessel was designed to endure. But they arrived. Right between the enemy fleet and the planet. The battle was chaos. Human ships fought at point-blank range, using their own mass as weapons. Collisions, boarding actions, self-destructs timed to enemy formations. Half the fleet was lost in minutes. On the ground, the sky burned. Mara felt the shockwaves through the earth as the final dropship lifted off. All civilians aboard. Someone shouted. She was the last aboard. As the hatch closed, she looked back at the shelter. Empty. No one left behind. The dropship punched through atmosphere as the fleet fought and died above them. One by one, human ships fell, but not before tearing the enemy fleet apart. By the time the dropship reached safety, there was nothing left in orbit. Nothing, except debris and silence. The survivors were relocated to human-protected systems. Medical teams worked non-stop. The children slowly began to speak. Again, to laugh, to trust. Mara watched them from a distance. Exhaustion finally catching up with her. She had lost friends' ships, half a fleet. And she would do it again. The Galactic Council erupted. Reckless, irresponsible, unacceptable losses. Humanity did not argue. They simply released the footage. Burning ships, human crews choosing collision courses, children being carried through fire. The galaxy fell quiet. Mara stood at a viewport weeks later, watching one of the rescued children play with a human engineer. She touched the scar on her arm. Someone asked her softly, "Was it worth it?" Mara didn't answer immediately. Then she said, "Ask them." The camera lingered on the children alive, laughing. Real. Humanity lost half a fleet that day. But they sent a message. Louder than any weapon. They would trade steel for lives. Ships for children. And if the universe wanted monsters, humanity would be monsters only to those who preyed on the small and the helpless. The SOS was perfect. Clear signal. Verified origin. No distortion. It wasn't chaos screaming into the void. It was structured, desperate clarity. Civilian population under sustained orbital bombardment. Atmospheric collapse imminent. Evacuation failure probability 97%. A genocide in progress. The Galactic Council's automated system processed the data in under 3 seconds. A soft chime echoed through the central archive. Status: non-priority, recommended action. Observation: ONL. No alarms. No emergency session. No raised voices. The file was tagged, catalogued, and quietly pushed down the queue. Somewhere, an entire world continued to burn unnoticed. 3 systems away, the same SOS triggered a very different response. Red warning lights washed across the command deck of a human monitoring station. Officers snapped to attention. Consoles lit up with trajectory calculations and casualty projections. In the observation gallery above them, Ambassador Jonah Reeves stood motionless. The hologram of the burning planet rotated slowly in front of him. Cities collapsing. Atmosphere tearing itself apart. Civilian transports exploding before they could clear orbit. Reeves felt a familiar, sickening pressure behind his eyes. Not shock. Recognition. So, he murmured to himself, voice barely audible, "They're doing it again." Jonah Reeves had once believed in the Council with almost painful sincerity. He had memorized protocols, learned the art of diplomatic phrasing, convinced himself that measured language could outweigh raw violence. He had argued politely, That intervention saved more lives than restraint. He had been told to wait again, and again, and again. Reeves had watched worlds disappear behind bureaucratic language like strategic, patience, and long-term stability. He had learned how extinction could be justified without anyone ever raising their voice. Tonight, something inside him finally cracked. The Galactic Council chamber was vast and beautiful, designed to inspire unity, balance, civilization. Floating platforms arranged in perfect symmetry, gentle lighting, acoustic engineering that turned every word into something important. Sounding. Reeves stood at his assigned podium as the SOS was formally discussed. One counselor spoke calmly. Verification is ongoing. Another added, we must avoid escalation. A third gestured dismissively. Intervention may destabilize the region. Reeves listened, fists clenched at his sides. These are civilians, he said finally. They are dying while we debate phrasing. A senior counselor inclined their head politely. Your concern is noted, Ambassador, but consensus has not been reached. Reeves laughed. Not loudly, not mockingly. Just once. How many votes? He asked quietly. Does it take to justify extinction? No one answered. The discussion moved on. While the council debated semantics, humanity acted. Fleet commanders did not request permission. They never had. Orders flowed through human space, unceremonious, unmistakable. Answer the call. Warships powered up. Crews ran to stations. Hyperspace drives spooled with a low, predatory hum. Reeves watched the fleet depart through the viewport. This time, he didn't feel fear. He felt clarity. If they're going to call us reckless, he whispered, we might as well earn it. Back in the council chamber, the SOS played silently in the corner of the room. Muted, minimized, ignored. Reeves stared at it as counselors shifted to trade negotiations and border disputes. He understood something then with terrifying certainty. This was how genocide survived. Not through hatred. Through procedure. Human ships arrived in system. Less than 40 minutes later, what they found matched the exactly. Cities burning from orbit. Atmospheric shockwaves tearing continents apart. Civilian convoys reduced to drifting debris. The aggressor fleet turned to face the newcomers. Human ships did not slow. They did not warn. They opened fire. Railgun slugs punched through enemy hulls. Energy lances carved glowing scars across battleships. Boarding craft launched straight into the teeth of enemy defenses. This was not a demonstration, it was an interruption. On the planet's surface, evacuation zones flickered under constant bombardment. Human dropships descended through firestorms. Hulls scorched black as they punched through atmosphere. Marines ran through collapsing streets, dragging civilians from rubble, shielding them with their own bodies. Some transports made it out, some didn't. But every second humanity fought. Fewer people died, and that was enough. As the battle raged, Jonah Reeves returned to the council chamber. Didn't request the floor. He took it. Security protocols fled, but too late. Every display in the chamber flickered, then changed. The SOS filled the room. Unmuted. Screams echoed through the chamber, bouncing off pristine walls that had never heard real fear. Counselors shouted, demanded shutdown. Reeves didn't stop. The feed changed again. Another SOS appeared, then another. Different species, different systems, different decades. Each tagged the same way. Priority. Observation. ONL. Reeves' voice cut through the noise, steady, controlled, burning with restrained fury. Every one of these was verified, he said. Every one of them was ignored. Counselors protested. Reeves raised his voice for the first time. You call humanity violent, he said. You call us unstable. The footage shifted to human Marines, pulling civilians from collapsed shelters. To you, restraint is letting people die quietly. Back in the war, the enemy fleet began to break. Their command vessel transmitted surrender codes. Human ships acknowledged. Receipt. Then kept firing. The flagship shattered under concentrated fire. On the council feed, Reeves didn't flinch. You had your chance, he said softly. So did they. The bombardment stopped. The planet lived. Casualty reports flooded in. Human ships lost. Crews dead. Entire squadrons erased. But millions of civilians were alive. Who would have been dead an hour earlier? Council representatives erupted. You violated council law. Yes, Reeves replied calmly. You destabilized an entire sector. Yes. You may have triggered a wider conflict. Reeves leaned forward, eyes hard. No, he said quietly. You did. We just refused to look away. Across council space, protests erupted. Species recognized the SOS signals Reeves had shown. Grief turned into rage. Truth spread faster than the council could suppress it. Humanity issued a single statement, and nothing more. We will answer the calls you ignore. Then they withdrew. No speeches. No negotiations. Just distance. Jonah Reeves stood on a human station weeks later, watching refugee transports jump to hyperspace. He looked older, exhausted, but lighter than he had felt in years. A junior officer approached hesitantly. Sir, do you think the galaxy will ever forgive us? Reeves watched the stars stretch into infinity. No, he said honestly. Then, after a pause, he added, but they'll remember who answered. Behind humanity, council chambers echoed with empty words. Ahead of them were voices still screaming into the dark. And this time, someone was listening. Theme. Someone has to be feared. They stopped calling humanity saviors. They stopped calling them allies. Now, in the outer systems, mothers whispered one word to make children quiet. Humans. The galaxy said it with fear. Humanity accepted the name without protest. Beyond the reach of the Galactic Council lay the outer dark systems, where laws were theories, and mercy was a weakness. That was where the slavers hunted. Whole species vanished there, not conquered, not enslaved, long-term. Erased. Every SOS that escaped the dark arrived broken, delayed, or too late, and every time the council issued the same verdict. Unverifiable non-priority. Humanity read those words differently. They read them as permission. Oren Kale was not cruel by nature. That was the most dangerous thing about him. He was quiet, precise, a man who believed every action carried a cost and that someone had to pay it. Kale had commanded rescue fleets before he had watched slavers scatter the moment human ships appeared only to return. The second humanity left, predators learned patterns. Kale intended to break them. The proposal was never written down. It existed only in a sealed room, shared between Kale and a handful of admirals. What if, Kale asked calmly, we stop being predictable? Silence followed. What if, he continued, we stop being moral in public, so others can survive in private? Someone whispered, that would make us monsters. Kale nodded. Yes, he said, that's the point. The first strike was surgical. A slaver outpost vanished overnight. No survivors, no distress call, no explanation. The second strike was louder. Human ships attacked a convoy already under assault, and destroyed both sides. No warnings, no distinction. The galaxy panicked. Rumors spread faster than truth ever had. Humans kill everyone. Humans don't negotiate. Humans erase systems. Kale made sure some rumors were true. Human vessels began appearing, where slavers felt safest. Sometimes they attacked slavers. Sometimes they attacked nothing at all. Empty stations, erased without context. And sometimes, they let witnesses live. Just enough. A single crippled ship limping home, broadcasting terror. Kale read the reports in silence. Each one cost him something. But the numbers told a different story. Slaver raids dropped. Predator fleets rerouted. Outer systems went quiet. Fear worked. Within human space, dissent grew. You're killing innocence, one officer accused. Kale didn't argue. Yes, he said, so fewer will die tomorrow. That was the cruelty of it. Kale wasn't pretending innocence. He was sacrificing it. Then came the request Kale hadn't expected. A defenseless species too weak to flee. Humanity to protect them. Not with fleets. With fear. They wanted the rumor. They wanted humans to make enough that every predator would see it. Kale approved the operation. And knew, in that moment, there would be no redemption left for him. The attack was overwhelming. Human ships arrived without warning, and left nothing behind. No survivors, no evidence, only silence. Across the outer systems, slavers powered down their drives. Hunters abandoned prey, and somewhere in the dark, a new law replaced the councils. If you hunt the weak, the humans will hunt you. Oren Kale stood alone on the bridge, staring into the stars. He had won, and he had damned himself. Fear, once unleashed, does not obey borders. Soon, even neutral worlds flinched at human signals. Trade slowed, alliances frayed. Humanity became a shadow everyone planned around. The council prepared sanctions. Kale prepared something else, to keep the myth alive. The monster needed one last act. Something unforgettable. Something unforgettable. Cale ordered a fabricated attack, false evidence pointing to humanity committing an atrocity so severe that no predator would ever doubt the legend. And then, he turned himself in. Cale stood before a human tribunal. No lawyers. No excuses. I authorized everything, he said. The false flags. The extermination. The lies. The room was silent. I did it, Cale continued, so others wouldn't have to. Someone asked, quietly, do you regret it? Cale closed his eyes. Every second, he said, and I would do it again. The sentence was, swift, public, final, Cale walked to the execution chamber. Alone. No speeches. No last words. As the chamber sealed, a single message was broadcast across the galaxy. Humanity condemns Fleetmaster Orin Cale. His actions do not represent our values. Justice has been served. The monster was dead. The legend lived. Something strange happened after Cale's death. The outer systems stayed quiet. Slaver fleets dissolved. Predators vanished into hiding. Weak worlds rebuilt. And humanity stepped back. They let the myth rot slowly, fading into story, but never fully disappearing. Years later, a child on a distant world asked their parent, are humans really monsters? The parent thought for a long moment, then answered honestly, no, they said. They just love the light enough to become the dark.